what are the top 5 things that you should never say during a job interview? What are the red flags that can get you disqualified instantly? Hi there, this is Vani. Do you know that most candidates get disqualified because of small communication glitches during the interviews? And you should know them before you go for your next interview. So let's get started. The first thing that you should never say. My biggest weakness is that. Every person has a weakness, but who wants to admit that, and that too during an interview? See, there are 2 types of classic questions asked in every job interview. The first one is a softball question where they ask you about your strengths and you talk about your skills and the value you bring to the company. And then comes the curveball question where they ask you, what are your weaknesses? And sometimes if you are not prepared or if you are a fresher, you may end up saying, I don't have any weakness, or I'm a very hardworking person and when I work, I forget everything else, or I'm a very emotional person, or I'm short-tempered. So if you say these things, your interviewer might think that you will not be able to handle yourself during a stressful situation, or when you are asked to do something again and again, you might retaliate because you're short-tempered. So the best way to answer this question is to emphasize on how you can transform your weaknesses into strengths. For example, now imagine you have applied for the role of a software engineer and your interviewer may ask, what are your weaknesses? So how will you answer this question? So what are your weaknesses?
My English is poor.
So instead of straight away saying my English communication is very poor, you can say, in my last job, because of my technical profile, I did not interact with a lot of people, and that has somehow affected my English communication, and I am not that confident with my English now. But I can understand the language. And to regain my confidence, I have been practicing English daily for a month now, and I'm a quick learner. And I can assure you that I will not let it become a problem in my job. See? Now that's a simple, no-brainer answer which will definitely impress your interviewer. Now let's talk about the next red flag statement. My last company was awful. Can you tell me something about your last company?
It was a very bad company and my experience was also bad.
It is possible that your experience with your last company was not that great. But whining about your previous boss or your previous company in your current interview might not be the right time to play the victim card and talk about your terrible past experience. And because of that, your interviewer might start thinking, will she talk bad about us the same way to her next employer? So never ever badmouth your previous company. And if your interviewer wants to know about your previous job, just keep a formal and a positive tone and focus on what you have learned from your last company and what you expect or hope to do in the future. That's all. Moving on to the third red flag statement. So tell me something about yourself.
My name is Abby and I'm from Patna
I get it. You can get a bit nervous when you start talking to your interviewer, but make sure that it does not last for more than a minute or 2. You know what actually happens when you're nervous? You start rambling and you start taking a lot of pauses and using a lot of filler words like So when you do that, it will reduce your credibility as a speaker. And your interviewer might think that you are not the right fit or maybe you're not prepared. Let me share my personal experience. A few days back, I was interviewing candidates for an assistant profile on the team. And I remember one candidate who was excessively using filler words, and it became very difficult for me to understand what she actually wanted to say. And you can't afford to do the same thing in your interview. So make sure that whenever you practice for your next interview or whenever you speak in English, minimize the use of filler words and always think before you speak. This will help you to sound more confident and more qualified. Now let's talk about our fourth statement. I want XYZ salary because. So what is your salary expectation?
I want 30k salary because my friend are also getting the same salary in his company and I also pay my education loans.
When it's time to discuss about your salary, never say, I want XYZ salary because I have so many responsibilities. Or I want XYZ salary because I have to pay my education loan or my student loan or my home loan. Or I expect this much because my friends are getting this much salary. Never link your salary want with your lifestyle. Always ask for a salary that matches your actual worth. Just do some research. Check what other people are getting for the same job profile. You should always focus on what values you are giving to the company, what values you bring to the table, and then negotiate accordingly. Try and justify your salary wants with facts as to why you should be paid for whatever you are asking and how will you be an asset to the organization in that budget. The last thing that you should never talk about is stories from your long past. Now imagine your interviewer asks you about your achievements. When I was in school, I used to participate in a lot of debates and I won so many medals for it, and I even used to participate in dance and drama and literature, and I used to get certificates and medals for that. Wait a minute. Your interviewer is not interested in stories from the long past. Talk about your recent achievements from your last job. Or if you're a fresher, then don't go more than 3 years back. If you will talk about stories from the long past, your interviewer will think that it is a tactic to avoid talking about the present or you don't have any recent achievements. So always start fresh and focus on your current achievements and how it can make you a better candidate for the job role. And apart from keeping your answers limited to recent and fresh information, you should also learn how to communicate briefly and effectively. The biggest red flag of all is when the interviewer gets an impression that you are just beating around the bush and you can't communicate clearly, especially if the language of communication is English and you fail to elaborate yourself clearly. So if you are facing the same problem, then watch this video on how to improve your spoken English for your next interview in just 21 days. And also watch this video where I have told 10 things that you should do to crack your interview. That's all for today. Thanks a lot for watching this video and give it a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Thank you. Take care.